And so what can we do if we are burnt out? Because I imagine in previous times, maybe before COVID, we've all got our certain ways of maybe relaxing and releasing some tension. But for me, for example, that was sport, which was sort of taken away by COVID. So in many ways, I've found it a lot harder to kind of switch off recently. So if we were to look at it kind of broadly, what are some ways to really wring out the sponge?
Well, one of the first things is look to cut back on the demands by prioritising. So what are the most important or most meaningful things for us to keep going? And even there, can we cut some corners in those things? Also, in bolstering our resources, can we call on extra help? Maybe we can delegate a little bit more. Maybe we can let someone know we're really struggling at the moment. We're feeling overwhelmed. Could we get some help in some extra ways to reduce the burden? But then I'd say it comes back to our self-care skills, which includes whatever recharges our batteries. And I think some of the main things for that would be physical exercise. That would be one of the number one things. Anything that helps our sleep, such as having a wind down time in the evening. I think it really helps if people have some kind of practice like relaxation or yoga or meditation or mindfulness exercises. In other words, some strategy which means that people are practicing repeatedly bringing down their arousal level. I think in time, many of us are going to have some strategy like that as just part of our general health and well-being. And then other things that we know recharge our batteries, such as making time to catch up with friends. It might be that we enjoy watching movies, or that there are some other kind of activities that are like a hobby or a way we can spend some leisure. I think part of it is building in that time where we can recharge our batteries alongside cutting back on demands.
Well, I've heard that analogy used that in order to best split logs, you've got to spend some time sharpening the saw. And I think that relates a little bit here. And I think one thing that I remember learning, which made a huge difference for me, was the concept of active recovery. And I remember it being back in the day that you might have sort of a day off and you wouldn't necessarily plan what you were going to do, and you might end up spending a little bit too much time on your bum and you're sort of watching TV, and you kind of get to the end of that day and it sort of slipped by and you didn't necessarily get as much out of it as you would have hoped. Whereas if you sort of spend a day, and it could even be that I'm going to spend 3 hours watching TV and then I'm going to go for a walk and then I'm going to get a bite to eat. But if you can almost allot recovery time and be, I suppose, a bit more deliberate in recovering during that time, if that makes sense. Like, I know for me anyway, that is something that makes a huge difference rather than just having time off.
Yes, and it's having your own way where you're recognising that you're recharging your batteries. So it's not a matter for someone else to say that you should be doing it this way or that way. It's noticing what works for us. Because then if we can use our own strategies, then we can recognise that we're doing something to help ourselves feel that things are coming back more into balance.